Well, our two guests together tonight have decades of experience at the highest level of politics in this country. Both of them served as cabinet ministers in their respective governments. Anne McLellan is a Liberal from Alberta, and Lisa Raitt, an Ontario Conservative. But of course, we should note that each of them has a strong maritime history. So welcome home to both of you. It's so nice to see your familiar faces.
It's great to be here.
So you're here as co-chairs of something called the Coalition for a Better Future, and you were talking to youth. Tell me a little bit about that. What is the group?
Yep.
We're a voluntary organization made up of about 140 members, but those members represent big swaths of the Canadian economy, right? The forestry producers, the oil and gas producers, the automakers, and so on. No individual company, no government, but big swaths of the Canadian economy. And we were put in place to put an emphasis on inclusive, sustainable, long-term economic growth coming out of COVID. And what we want and continue to do is try and get governments at all levels, the private sector and civil society, focused on what we need to do to ensure long-term economic growth for this country, but the right kind of economic growth.
Yeah, it comes down to a question of productivity, right? We're not productive enough in this country.
Productivity is part of it. So instead of pontificating on what should be done, what we do is we have a scorecard. And there's 21 metrics that we measure every year. And part of it is to allow politicians and policymakers know whether or not their policies are working, but as well, it's to hold them accountable. And we've been doing this now for 4 years, and unfortunately, the metrics show us that we're getting progressively worse. So what Anne and I talk about is, yeah, productivity is a problem that we have to take a look at, and that is business investment and making sure that there is a pro-investment attitude in this country.
Is it worse now, given the current tariff situation?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, far worse.
Well, productivity is going in the wrong direction. We've seen GDP per capita is basically flatlining. Any growth we see is 1% or less. Business investment, private sector investment is way down. And I think you do hear Prime Minister Carney talking about the importance of building big things. And those big things only get built with an awful lot of private sector investment. And we're going the wrong way. And in large part, that's because of the uncertainty that's been created by President Trump and his tariffs.
What are the risks? You know, if the productivity doesn't, increase, what are the risks? What are we heading for here?
So productivity doesn't increase on its own. Like, there has to be hard work. The risk around not having productivity improved by not having investment happen is that we actually have a lower standard of life. Quite frankly, that's what we're looking at. Anne and I do a lot of work as well in universities. We talk to a lot of young adults between the ages of 18 and 34, hearing what they have to say. They have a much different point of view on this country. They are extraordinarily pessimistic. They actually don't feel that we're doing as much as we can to have a higher quality of life. And that should be something that politicians and policymakers pay attention to when they're setting policy for the future. And be courageous.
And the government, or the governor of the Bank of Canada, Tiff McLellan, just said this the other day, that our standard of living is now at risk.
That's right. Without economic growth, you're not going to be able to build the social infrastructure, the healthcare system, the public education system, all those things that go to create that quality of life that we've enjoyed in this country. And I think Lisa's absolutely right. We were at Dalhousie University this morning. Young people wondering where the jobs of the future are. What does AI do to my job? Will what I had hoped to do disappear because of technology? Where are those new jobs that we know technology will create, but what do they look like? So there's a lot of uncertainty for young people right now.
Minister Mélanie Joly recently made the comment that Canada doesn't have enough big companies. Is that true? Do you believe that?
Well, we do track. We do track to see who are those big companies. It's one of our metrics. And we did have a really good run at one point in time. We call them narwhals, meaning that you've got $1 billion in market cap. Instead of unicorns, narwhals, you got Canada perspective. It's dropped a little bit. She's right. You need those anchor type of clients, but as well, you got to pay attention to the small and medium-sized businesses. And the other part that we focus on, no one else does, is rural Canada. and what's happening there, because they really are the place where an economic shock can be absorbed and protected.
Budget coming up very shortly. A lot of people watching this, you know, coast to coast. What do both of you want to see in this budget?
I want to see the right balance being struck between sustaining those programs that are important for people, especially people who are struggling right now, whether it's making sure the Government of Canada is still investing in health care through the provinces, that child care benefits are protected, that dental care is still protected. But on the other hand, making sure, as the Prime Minister has said, that we're going to make big generational investments in big projects which will in turn drive the economic growth we want to see and provide the employment for the next generation.
Lisa, what do you think?
I want to see the government take a real hard look at reducing regulations in the country. I'd like to see them reduce some taxes in the country for business so that they can make business investments. But it's in their hands. Whatever they can fix, they should fix. And the regulatory system is the one place where people and investors complain about in terms of certainty of having projects done. We've been talking about that for 4 years. So I think Nova Scotia is doing some good work in that area. I think they are trying to get to the heart of the matter on regulatory things and moving things forward, because unleashing your resources is going to help allow you to pay for things like healthcare.
I've only got about 20 seconds left. What does your relationship, the two of you, what does that say to your audiences about bipartisanship, especially in this day and age? Because you are, of course, from different parties.
I think it says that there are some issues that are so important to everyone in this country that people need to park, if you like, partisan differences and work together and set an example in terms of how you can work together to make a difference for people.
And behind us is a group of organizations that also are cross-partisan, including union representation, charitable representation, communities across the country. And I think what they say to us as we represent them is just show the fact that Canadians want to get things done together and that they got sick of politicians fighting with one another all the time.
We'll have to leave it there, ladies. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Our former federal cabinet ministers, Anne McLellan and Lisa Raitt. Stay with us. We'll be right back.